Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the Video Sports page. I'm your host, Carl Pratt. Welcome to edition number 1144, along with Will McKinney and Rich Goulart. Tonight, we bring you another program with lots and lots of highlights from the professional ranks right down to the high school front, and we made a variety of stops over this past week. So we're going to get right into the meat of our program, and we'll begin by talking about the Plymouth South girls varsity basketball team under the direction of Summer Ivan. They're off to a great start. We have an opportunity to check in now with some of our highlights. What we're going to show you right now is the Plymouth South Lady Panthers in action. They play at the Plymouth South Middle School. Plymouth South in the white jerseys took on visiting Bridgewater Raynham this week, and they came away with a lopsided victory, 63-37. Christina Jarrows dominated inside in the early going, getting 16 points in the game. And then two very good freshmen, Tess Harkenreiter and Maddie Norris, were key contributors to Coach Summer Ivan right there in the striped top. As Harkenreiter finished with 14, Maddie Norris finished with 8. Those two young ladies had quite a career in the Plymouth Girls Basketball League, playing many games in that same gymnasium where they're very, very familiar. You'll see a couple of nice layups by Harkenreiter. Plymouth South now 7-2 on the season, tied for first place with Marshfield. Let's get some of the natural sound of recent high school girls varsity basketball. Okay, you could see the Plymouth South Panthers dominating that game at halftime. They jumped on top early and kept Bridgewater Raynham at bay. And this Plymouth South program really starting to raise a few eyebrows throughout the South Shore. They'll be back in action on Friday night. As I mentioned, some good youngsters on that basketball team like Norris, like Harkenreiter, that'll pave the way for a very good future for the Plymouth South program. Well, we're talking about Plymouth South. Now let's flip over to the boys' side. The Plymouth South boys team, under the direction of Coach Dave Costa, traveled to Carver this week, and they took on Roger King's basketball team. And what a battle between these two teams, Carver in the home white jerseys, Plymouth South in the black. Final count here was 70-68. And this game really did come right down to the wire as well, although both teams at certain points in the ballgame enjoyed leads of better than 10 points. Plymouth South actually led this game 64-63 with a minute to go. Then James Frazier hit a big three-point bucket for Carver. Another Frazier, there's been a bunch of them. Those brothers have made their mark with Carver basketball. Mike Mealy hit a layup to tie the game, then a couple of free throws. But then with 11.3 seconds to go, Scotty Alexander of Carver, who finished with a game-high 26 and 6 three-pointers, actually hit a fadeaway from about 12 feet out with 2.5 seconds to go. And that tied the basketball game. But then Devon King stole the basketball and laid it in at the buzzer to give Carver the victory. The Carver Crusaders 6-3 on the season under the direction of Roger King.
Plymouth South foul, number 23, Mark Minio. First personal, 16 pounds.
Victory over the Plymouth South Panthers, 70-68. Let's talk about one more program from Plymouth South. It's the wrestling program, which now stands at 17-0 on the season. This past weekend, Plymouth South went down to North Attleboro for a quad meet. All right, they took their 14-0 record into that matchup. All right, they come away with a 39-25 victory against Bridgewater Raynham, then defeated Algonquin 51-15, which set up a huge matchup with St. John's Prep. Last year, St. John's Prep dominated Plymouth South in the state tournament. So this was a great measuring stick for Coach LaRange's team. All right, currently St. John's, or at least going into that matchup, St. John's was rated #1 in the state. All Plymouth South did was erase a 15-6 deficit, and they rolled up an impressive victory by a score of 30-24. And what a huge win for Plymouth South. They have high expectations every year with the wrestling program. This one will vault them in a big, big way. Shane Mulligan, Eric Klinger, Dylan Oxen had big victories for Plymouth South, as did Devin Gadagno and Ryan Hardy, just to name a few. But a big victory for the Plymouth South Panther wrestling program. Well, on Wednesday night, I had an opportunity to go into the Garden as the Celtics took on the Phoenix Suns, and prior to the game, I tried to line up a handful of interviews. I talked to Dan Marley, a former Suns outstanding shooter. He's now one of the assistant coaches. But I also spent some time with Ann Myers-Drysdale. If you go back to the 70s, Ann Myers had a terrific career for UCLA basketball. And a couple of notes about her: she was actually the first woman ever awarded a complete 4-year basketball scholarship for UCLA, and she's the first basketball player for UCLA, men or women, that actually was named an All-American all 4 years in her college career. She's an outstanding young lady who later went on in life to marry the late Don Drysdale, the former Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher. Well, I had an opportunity to spend some time with Ann last night prior to the Celtics matchup against the Phoenix Suns. Let's call on Rich Goulart to roll the videotape. Let's replay the interview I had with Ann Myers-Drysdale. 2, 1. Okay, let's continue with this week's edition of the Video Sports Page. I've got a very special guest. She's done just about everything in basketball, and now one of the television voices for the Phoenix Suns, Ann Myers-Drysdale. And let's talk about it. Basketball's been your life.
Well, it has. I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters. My dad played basketball at Marquette, and so we grew up playing basketball. We grew up playing sports.
Yeah, but you grew up with an awful lot of success. You winning a national title, your brother following in your shoes.
Well, I think I followed in his shoes. I have brothers and sisters that have been just as successful as I have, and so I'm grateful for that. But, they helped push me to where I am today.
How proud are you now, the focus that gets on the girls' game?
Well, I'm really proud of the WNBA, and I think the WBL back in the late 70s really helped kind of catapult where the WNBA is too. So to have these young women have the opportunity to be a professional athlete and make money, it's a great dream.
What about the focus? So even in the college game, you see Connecticut playing Stanford or one of those other real big matchups, and the Final Four, it's sold out and all that focus.
Yeah, I think Tennessee with Pat Summitt really had a lot to do with that. She understood and was very savvy with the TV, and and then you got Gino Auriemma at Connecticut and Tara Vanderveer at Stanford, and you look at the Louisiana Techs and what they did in SCs. So you needed personalities, not only big name schools to win those championships, but to help market and promote the game. And certainly you've got great players coming out this year in the sense of Brittany Griner and Diggins from Notre Dame and so forth, and Elena Deladon over at Delaware. So the names are becoming more familiar with people, and TV's been a big part of it.
Let's talk about basketball. What has it meant to you and your family? I mean, we touched on it right at the beginning, but obviously you must take plane rides, put your feet up and say, wow, what a ride.
I've been so blessed in so many ways. The game has taken me to so many countries, and to be able to travel and meet people from different walks of life, and so grateful to be able to understand what the game has given me and to be able to give back. And And you know, I've been with the Phoenix Mercury as a general manager, won 2 WNBA championships, and as a president, now to broadcast the Suns games. And so I'm grateful to the Phoenix Suns and Mercury organization and just everybody that's been giving me opportunities. Going to London and working the Olympics on NBC, and was over there with Doc Rivers, and you know, so it's been great, and all the people that I've met and the friendships that I've made.
And let's get away from basketball for a moment. That last name, Drysdale, very special to the world of baseball.
As a special man, Don Drysdale, my late husband, passed away in '93. Our daughter had just been born about 2.5 months before that. I had been inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and we have 2 sons and our daughter, and certainly miss Don a lot. It was interesting to see the Baseball Hall of Fame did not induct anybody this year, but you know, Don was a special guy, and I was so grateful that he came into my life.
What about when you think about what he meant to baseball, what you've meant to basketball? Is there any way that can ever be conveyed to the kids? Your kids.
Well, he's a Hall of Famer. They know that, and unfortunately, my daughter and my son Darren really didn't get to know him. DJ was 5 when he passed away, but you know, it's what people tell them about their dad, and so I think that's hard. The expectations of others, expecting our sons to be baseball players or my daughter to be a basketball player, and if they're not successful in sports, and the comparisons because of who their father was and who their mother is, and so that's been hard. But I tell you, I am so proud of all 3 of them, and they all have their own interests, and they're off to college, and my oldest son has graduated and working now, and the other 2 are in college, and you know, I'm so blessed in so many ways.
Finally, before I let you sneak away, I enjoyed watching you as a college basketball player. Several years later, we share the same court here in Boston. What message would you like to pass on to the young ladies or the young men that are aspiring high school athletes that want to go on to college or do something?
I think like anything in life, you got to do what you love to do, and it takes sacrifices. You've got to work hard. Anything worth going for is going. You've got to be able to work at it, and if you don't do that, but you can't have your final goal as a scholarship. Your final goal should be able to play the game and play it for fun and do it. Whatever comes after that is great, but you know, so much has changed today, but I think the biggest thing is enjoy what you're doing, and you've got to work hard in order to be successful.
Well, it certainly worked for us. We worked hard to get Ann Myers Drysdale and spend some time on our program. We certainly appreciate it. We'll continue with more, so stay with us. And here's a note about Ann Drysdale and her late husband, Don, the only married couple ever to be put in the Hall of Fame in their respective sports. What a tag to have. All right, you know what? Down at the Manomet Youth Center, they have an outstanding youth basketball program, okay? And it's really a nice program headed up by Amy Sprague, and she has some able assistants. They get a lot of youngsters involved. They have a developmental program for the real young kids, and I'm talking about really teaching the basics. I was on hand this past Saturday morning, and you're talking about using the terminology, pointing out different spots on the court, all the necessary basic steps to turn these youngsters into good basketball programs and good basketball athletes. We have an opportunity to look at these youngsters. They lower the court down there. There's Amy in the purple, does a great job with these youngsters, and certainly the town of Plymouth has a prize with her heading up the program. They have a junior division league where they have 6 teams involved. They have some kids involved in the older division, and they also have a high school division as well. Let's get some of the natural sound, and let's watch some of these youngsters as they participate in the program headed up by Amy Sprague at the Manomet Youth Center. So the youngsters beginning their basketball careers down at the Manomet Youth Center, they're part of a program that runs for 5 weeks. They just started that program this past Saturday morning, and the kids certainly bubbling with enthusiasm. Great idea to lower that basketball net where it's reachable for all those youngsters and not that big of a challenge to say, how the heck can I ever get that ball up there? All right, let's continue with our program. And you know what? Some of those youngsters that once participated in the Manamint Youth Center, they play PNBA basketball. Some do, some don't. They go in different directions. Let's talk first of all about a 5th grade PNBA team. Head coach John L. Filippini, one of his assistants, Sean Grealis, are very proud these days. Their team is 8-0 after last weekend's action. And as far as league is concerned, that's the Cape Cod Travel League, and they're 15-1 overall. They've been participating in some tournaments. The latest 2 victims to fall to this PNBA program, Falmouth 54-11 and Lakeville 34-31. Some strong play this past weekend from Joaquin Leonard, Christian Peruzzi, Quinn Grealis, Louis Machado. I'll tell you, lots of kids playing well for Coach John L. Filippini and his group. You know, a year ago they were 4th graders, and out of the 11-man roster, the 11-player roster, 8 of those players were on that team last year. And as 4th graders, they were 16-0 in the Cape Cod League and 30-4 overall. What a record right there, and a great building block, if you will, for the area high school programs. Well, at PCIS on Saturday mornings, there's lots of basketball action for PNBA teams. I had an opportunity to pick up some highlights for the 7th grade group who took on Barnstable, and that's always a great matchup. The head coach for the PNBA team is Bernie Schranz. His team came away with a 60-57 victory over Barnstable. Nick McNamee had an outstanding game with 31 points. Kevin Doherty had an outstanding game. He has to cover the other team's big man. And what a job he did defensively, limiting the Barnstable big guy to just free throws in the game. Check that out, just free throws, no field goals. And when you think about a 3-point final count, that was huge. And the key point guard for this team is the coach's son, Greg Schranz. He had an outstanding game, dishing off the ball, making key cuts, making key passes at just the right time. All right, next on tap for this group, they'll take on Yarmouth Dennis on Saturday and Nauset on Sunday. They have 14 regular season games plus playoffs. So far in the season, they're inching towards the 500 mark. They got 2 tournaments they've participated in, and they've got 2 more going up before the year is over. And this team is taking on Barnstable, as you can tell from our graphic. They've had some great battles over the years. These kids know each other. They've met at different levels. They meet in tournaments, and you might as well act like teammates as much as they faced each other in area high school, not high school, but youth basketball activities, 7th graders. Let's get some of the natural sound of this action from PCIS. All right, the PNBA 7th grade travel team in action this past weekend against Barnstable. Let's go back to the high school front for a couple of moments. Let's talk about the Silver Lake boys indoor track team, which rolled up an impressive victory over Duxbury this week. Final score there was 68-32. Nick Levinson led the way for Silver Lake as he was first in the high hurdles, first in the long jump, and he ran one of the legs of the 4x440 relay team. Silver Lake with that victory, 5-1-1 this winter. As far as high school hockey is concerned, on Wednesday, the Silver Lake hockey team picked up another impressive victory, knocking off Quincy. Final count was 5-4. Silver Lake is now 4-1 in Patriot League action, 7-1 overall. Matt Koch scored his 2nd goal of the game with 3 minutes to go in the hockey game, lifting Silver Lake to that victory. Not such good news to report for Plymouth North and Plymouth South. They were in action on Wednesday, and both teams coming up just short against their opponents. Well, we have an opportunity to share with you some hockey highlights, girls varsity hockey highlights, as the Falmouth Clippers came to the Bog, that's over in Kingston, this past Saturday to take on previously undefeated Duxbury. Now, going into this particular game, both teams were 5-0. but it was actually Falmouth that upset Duxbury 1-0 in this hockey game. Now, Duxbury actually beat Falmouth a year ago in the Garden in the state finals, which capped a 22-0-1 season. But Falmouth got revenge last Saturday night by racking up a 1-0 victory. An outstanding game for Falmouth under the direction of head coach Aaron Hunt. And this team is obviously, you know, they had a goal in mind last weekend and they came through, but still lots and lots of hockey yet to be played this winter. Following that game, Duxbury bounced back with an impressive 9-1 victory over Whitman-Hanson. Let's get some of the natural sound from the Bog from last Saturday night. All right, once again, the defending state champion Green Dragons from Duxbury, who had an outstanding season a year ago, battling against Falmouth. All right, before we close this week's edition of our program, we have the favorite athlete segment. I caught up with 5 youngsters who are participating in PNBA basketball, and they offer us their favorite athlete.
Hi, my name is Kevin Paul. I play for the 5th grade PNBA travel team, and my favorite athlete is Ray Rice.
Hi, my name is Eric Chase, and I play for the 5th grade travel A team for PNBA, and my favorite athlete is RG3.
Hi, my name is Jaquan Leonard. I play for the 5th grade travel team for PNBA, and my favorite athlete is Rajon Rondo.
Hi, my name's John L. Filippini. I play for the 5th grade travel team, and my favorite athlete is Kobe Bryant.
Hi, my name is
Christian Peruzzi. I play for the 5th grade travel team for PNBA, and my favorite athlete is Ray Rice.
Okay, we certainly appreciate those youngsters joining us this week on our program. Wish them good luck for the rest of the season. Well, we're just about out of time. We'd like to thank you for yours. We invite you back with us once again next week for another edition of our local sports program. For Rich Goulart and Will McKinney, I've been your host, Carl Pratt. Health and wisdom from the Video Sports page.